Let's jump in. Big news, I think today dominated the news, was the fact that ABC had fired Jimmy Kimmel. No word about what they're going to replace his show with. Jimmy Kimmel, the comedian slash late night show host, was fired today. His ratings have been declining significantly for years now, as have the ratings of all late night hosts, show hosts, with the exception of, I guess, Greg Grunfeld on Fox News. But pretty much everybody else's ratings have been declining. But the cause of this firing specifically was a monologue Kimmel gave in which he suggested that the murderer of Charlie Cook might have been somebody from MAGA. Somebody from MAGA. And the sequence of events is, pretty straightforward. Kimmel makes the comment on Monday night, right? The FCC, the head of the FCC, what is his name? Brandon Carr, says, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct and take actions on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead. Then Carr says, broadcasters, including ABC, have a license granted by us at the FCC. And that comes with an obligation to operate in the, quote, public interest. At some point, Carr also attacks, in the same interview, he attacks Kimmel as talentless, suggests late-night comedians' comments displayed, quote, some sort of desperate irrelevance. So given the threat from the FCC that licenses granted could be taken away, local broadcasters decided to go with the FCC and not with Kimmel. Right? The number one local broadcaster, the largest network of local broadcasters, is Nexstar. Nexstar. Go figure. I never heard of them either. Nexstar. Nexstar today has the largest network of television stations, and this is how television works. This is how the FCC set it up. We'll get to that in a minute. And right now, the FCC has rules that cap TV conglomerates from owning stations. They can't reach more than 39% of TV households. So they can't grow bigger than that, right? So, but it turns out Nexstar is trying to acquire rival Tenga. Now, this merger would blast this rule, right? It would take it to significantly over 39% of all households, and make Nexstar the dominant player by far in the industry. But in order to do this, it needs the FCC to approve, and it needs the FCC, in a sense, to change the rules to allow it to buy Tegna, right? These caps, 39%, have been around, I think, for decades, and they would have to be lifted in order for this acquisition to go. So Nexstar has to play nice with the FCC. It needs the FCC to do it a big favor. This is how cronyism works. This is how cronyism works in all administrations. We're just seeing it play out kind of in more explicit ways with the Trump administration. The FCC would have to loosen its limits on broadcast station ownership. So, Nexstar has to be nice to the FCC. So, when the FCC kind of, suggests, when the head of the FCC suggests that some action needs to be taken to take Kimmel off the air, and that maybe affiliates could take that action, and that the license granted, and remember the public interest, then somebody like Nick Starr is going to do what? Is going to not do what the FCC chairman just asked them to do, politely, nicely? They need the FCC. They need to be on his good side. So Nick Starr pulled. Right after Nick Starr, you get Sinclair pulling. Sinclair, of course, pulled Kimmel. Sinclair, of course, is owned and run by conservative owners. And again, they got the message from the Trump administration. We don't want Kimmel on the air. ABC had no choice at this point. They had two of their largest distributors pulling. It would have absurd for Disney to keep the show on air with it going to less than 50% of households around the country. So I guess Sinclair operates ABC stations at 30 markets, Nick Starr in many more markets. That combination. And of course, Brendan Carr goes on Twitter. Brendan Carr is the chairman of the FCC. He's a government official. He goes on Twitter, says thank you to Sinclair for taking quick action that you consider responsive to the needs and values of the local community you serve. I mean, if this isn't government censorship, I do not know what it is. I do not know what government censorship looks like, except arresting people and putting them in jail. We're not doing that yet. We're just threatening them. We're not approving their mergers. We're threatening them. We're taking their licenses. They can't broadcast anymore. But we're not literally going and putting them in jail. It's like we don't put people in jail. People pay taxes. We just threaten them that if they don't pay taxes, we'll put them in jail. Right? That's coercion. If this isn't coercion to get the kind of speech and kind of corporate action you want, then I don't know what coercion looks like. And if you think, oh, it's a private company, they can do what they want, absolutely. But when the government is threatening them, imagine this was the Biden administration, what would you think? What would you feel? What would you suggest? Would you say this was censorship? You would, and you know it. So the fact that you're not, suggests maybe some zombie syndrome, maybe. I mean, the sequence is pretty clear. FCC chair says we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Trump says ABC should be fined or lose its license for their unfair coverage. Trump accuses ABC of hate speech, suggesting the Department of Justice will investigate. ABC executives are super scared of retaliation. Nick Starr, which needs merger approval, pulls, right? Kimmel. ABC, of course, is going to cancel the whole thing. That is how government censors. That's how government takes control of the media. That's how government gets everybody to play by its rules, by its standards. And this is exactly what Ayn Rand warned us against. Ayn Rand, in The Capitalism Not an Ideal, there was an essay by Ayn Rand, The Property Status of the Airwaves. And she argued that the fact that the government gives licenses, the fact that that's how it's structured, and it's been structured like this since the 1930s, the fact that that this is the way it's structured, and that the TV stations, the radio stations that license these airwaves are beholden to the public interest. Public interest. I mean, who's going to define what public interest is? When is that going to be defined? How is that going to be defined? That basically places the government in a position to put pressure on these stations to do its bidding, and therefore, by its very nature, it is antagonistic to free speech. And it opens itself up to government censorship and government control over the airwaves. What she suggested at the time was that the airwaves be privatized. That companies own the airwaves, and as private property over a bandwidth, they can do with it as they win. They can broadcast whatever they want. And they should be able to sell that bandwidth and be able to, again, broadcast anything they want. I mean, you wouldn't believe the amount of regulations that the FCC imposes on TV and radio stations, all in the name of course, the public interest, but also because they are the ones leasing these companies do not own the airwaves, and therefore the government has control over these airwaves. And you see how Trump is using this constantly. He wants the ABC and NBC, he wants them to, play ball, or they're going to lose the license. And he keeps threatening the license issue. And they're paying attention. I think as a consequence of this, CBS has now been bought by Larry Ellison's son, so by a Trump supporter, and CBS is likely to turn into kind of a right-leaning news organization. I wouldn't be surprised that ABC and NBC figure out, Disney figures out it's easier to sell ABC to some right-wing thing than to actually hold on to it. We'll get to this in a minute. By the way, Iman wrote quite a bit about the FCC, really attacked it. She thought the existence of the FCC, the existence of government licensing of the airwaves was a grave violation and opened up the possibility of really, really, really harmful actions by the government towards these private companies. And that's exactly what you are seeing right now. What you're seeing right now. And by the way, Brendan Carr, who is the head of the FCC, has in the past said some pretty good things about free speech. That's why this is particularly disappointing, but completely consistent with the kind of government that Trump is trying to run. Brendan Carr, for example, in February 14th, 2019, so 6 years ago, wrote, "Should the government censor speech it doesn't like? Of course not. The FCC does not have a roving mandate to police speech in the name of the public interest." All right, that's good. This has been in Carr yesterday. "I want to thank Nexstar for doing the right thing. Local broadcasters have an obligation to serve the public interest. While this may be an unprecedented decision, it is important for broadcasters to push back on Disney programming that they determine falls short of community values. I hope that other broadcasters follow Nexstar's lead." God, that is a scary statement. "It is important for broadcasters to push back." This is a government official with regulatory power, a gun in his hand, pointed at them, saying, "It's important for you," people I've got a gun pointed at, "to push back on Disney programming," Disney owns ABC, "that you determine falls short of community values." This is how it happens. This is how government chips away and chips away and chips away at the free media. This is how Putin ultimately took control of all the media in Russia. There is no alternative media in Russia. This is how Orban slowly chipped away. First he had his cronies, his friends, buy up whatever media assets they could. Then he just harassed whatever remaining media there was into oblivion. And today, media in Hungary is all supportive of Orban. There's no opposition media. So, you now have Trump basically taking over TikTok and handing it to his allies. And, would you be surprised if suddenly TikTok changed and became pretty pro-Trump? Would that shock anybody? Would that surprise anybody? MAGA now has basically Twitter, right? It has, looks like it's going to have TikTok. And Zuckerberg has continuously moved to appease Trump more and more, and has shifted a lot of his assets, a lot of the social media that he controls, to be more friendly, at least, to Trump. And of course, the press is just folding, given the Trump pressure. As we said, CBS recently acquired by David Ellison, CBS News is shifting to the right. Supposedly, he's going to buy Barry Weiss's conservative, not conservative, free press media, Barry Weiss's, and of course promote her to a major position at CBS News. We'll see if all that happens, but that looks like it. And then, of course, David Ellison is trying to acquire Warner Brothers, Discovery, which would then give him control of CNN. So you could see in the not so distant future, you could see basically Larry Ellison through his son David Ellison controlling not only CBS News but also CNN, and shifting all of those assets to the right. This is how it works. This is how they take over, right? And I don't know if there's anything anybody at this point could do about it. Right? And there's a question of why companies cave to Trump. And I think they cave to Trump because he's a real threat. Because in a mixed economy, in the world in which we live, a business relies on government heavily. It relies on government for contracts, like most of the tech industry relies on government contracts. They rely on government to approve mergers and acquisitions. Nexstar is a good example of that. They worry about government going after them for antitrust. Again, a lot of the tech businesses. They rely on government to give them, to either penalize them through tariffs or give them loopholes, exemptions from tariffs. So government is heavily involved in every aspect of these businesses. And as a consequence, CEOs tend to behave. They're afraid. We'll get to that in a minute. I want to give you two examples of how just free speech is under attack right now. And an attack from those who just a few months ago were claiming to be its biggest defenders, that is under attack from the right. Here is Congressman Clay Higgins, who is a Republican, unsurprising. And he is writing, he sent this open letter, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Neil Mohan, who's the CEO of YouTube. He wrote this, the CEO of TikTok, Chief Executive Officer of what? Blue Sky, and Chief Executive Officer of Trump Media. Funny. Anyway, this is what he wrote. You tell me if this is the government you want. Thank you for the service you provide to our republic, and may God be with you and your family. America is suffering under the dark weight of horror after the graphic televised murder of heroic Christian leader, Mr. Charlie Kirk. I ask that you reflect upon your own unique responsibility to participate in the very appropriate legal and constitutional sound response. What's a legal and constitutionally sound response to the murder of somebody? What is that? Not to threaten? But I don't know what that means. But he tells us. Please be advised that your platforms are rightfully expected to expeditiously remove all posts that have celebrated the political assassination of Charlie Kirk. Further, the authors of these posts are to be identified and banned from your platform, as well as any new pages that they may create. Now, I don't know, is Ann still on here? But aren't these companies private companies? And yet this is Congressman writing them, telling them exactly what they must do. Gleeful celebration of the heinous murder of an American citizen, brazenly published within the public forums of social media, is not to be tolerated within the accepted and legal parameters of a free, humane society. And I have initiated a congressional effort to force accountability. If you shield these offenders, Section 230 will not protect your platforms from vigorous exposure. I hold the gavel for the Federal Law Enforcement Subcommittee of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, and my chair has specific congressional authority over federal regulatory law enforcement. My committee will be a leading force in the righteous endeavor to protect the legitimate free exchange of ideas and opinions, which requires the vigilant maintenance of appropriate behaviors within our publicly accessed social media forums. Some of you are noticing sound issues, some of you are not, so I don't know what to make of that. Maybe I'm being too loud. Maybe I'm clipping by being too loud. Right. The reasonable restrictions on public statements that lie far beyond the standards of our own society is not an oppression of free speech. Yes, it is. It is rather the protection of free speech. Wow. If that's not George Orwell speak, I don't know what is. Having the will to guard the standards and integrity of the infrastructure that enables the expression of opinion in our public discourse is a crucial responsibility that we must embrace. I'm hopeful to receive your full cooperation and expect formal response to this letter of encouragement within 1 business week. This is censorship, guys. This is as bad, if not worse, than what the Biden administration did. And it is a precedent that is just horrific.